Hello. If you can't withdraw your labour to improve your pay or conditions, there's a good chance you're not living in a democracy. While governments like ours prepare for war with China, just look at AUKUS, which will no doubt be sold as a war for democracy against dictatorship, our civil liberties are being thrown to the scrap heap here. The right to free speech is being desecrated on university campuses when speaking out against apartheid in Palestine. Anti-war protesters are brutalised by police, and the right to strike is being seriously threatened. It's that right to strike that I want to talk about today. It seems as if the New South Wales government and private companies, in concert with the Fair Work Commission, are working as hard as they can to prove Karl Marx right when he labels the society we live under a dictatorship of capital and working class people wage slaves. Just yesterday, one of the largest private health companies, Healthscope, successfully applied to the Fair Work Commission to call off a 26-hour strike at 8 private hospitals in New South Wales. This comes only a day or so after the New South Wales Labor government had the Fair Work Commission call off industrial action on the rails. Industrial action has been banned until July. This proves two things that we've already said before. One, the state is not neutral. It's a weapon of class struggle for the bosses, demonstrating that the state isn't neutral, but is an instrument of class war for the bosses. And two, the struggle of all working class people is linked. An attack like this affects every worker. In an economy based on competition, lowering the standard for what's acceptable in one industry has ramifications for all of us. The fact that the bosses can get away with calling off industrial action on the rails undoubtedly makes them more confident to get it called off in hospitals. Section 424 of the Fair Work Act, an act introduced by a Labor government, is perhaps one of the most anti-democratic and anti-working class sections in the legislation. It empowers and actually requires the Fair Work Commission to call off a strike if it would threaten to cause significant damage to the Australian economy or an important part of it, or if it would threaten the personal safety or health or the welfare of the population or a part of it. This is to say that effectively if your strike does what a strike is meant to do, then the strike can be made illegal. If you work in an essential industry, your strike can be made illegal. If your strike threatens a part of the welfare of the population, let's say the billionaires, your strike can be made illegal. This is incredibly undemocratic. This legislation, introduced by the Labor Party, defangs the union movement in contravention of international human rights law and undermines the living standards of working class people so that businesses can go on as usual, and so more of the wealth that we create goes into the pockets of the bosses and not ours. There is a direct correlation between strike numbers declining and real wages declining too. Attacks on the right to strike are direct attacks on all working class people. Calling off strikes is not about the health and well-being of the population. It's about stopping working class people from exercising the power we have to affect change and improve our lot in society. And right now, we're seeing a pretty palpable example of that. Currently, Healthscope, the company that applied successfully to get the nurses' strike called off, has just announced that it's cutting maternity services in both Hobart and Darwin. This is absolutely a threat to the health and welfare of the population or a part of it. And is it being stopped? Absolutely not. Under capitalism, profits are sacred. Profit over patients? No worries. Workers striking for equal pay with their counterparts? Absolutely unacceptable. This is a clear demonstration that the Fair Work Act is enforced in a partial manner to the benefit of the bosses and to the detriment of the working class, so that profits reign supreme, and it ultimately means the society we live under is a dictatorship of capital. Once again, and surprisingly to many, these laws have often been the brainchild of Australian Labor Party hacks, and it really shows which side they stand on in the class war. It's really curious that when it comes to the dispute with the police in New South Wales or Victoria, the Fair Work Commission just stands aside. It's far more likely to intervene on behalf of the boss when it comes to warehouse workers, railway workers, and nurses. Even trade unionists under the Marcos dictatorship in the Philippines would legally be permitted to strike if all of their delegates were sacked, for example. In Australia, however, that'd be against the law. What we need is fighting unions that push through and break these laws and make them a dead letter. Just like what happened during the Carrie O'Shea strikes of 1969. Definitely Google that, please, if you can. We need fighters in our unions to take on the law, and we need to build a party with the politics to lead that fight. And I'm sorry to tell you, the Labor Party is absolutely not that party. So once again, I really encourage you to join your unions and join Victorian Socialists and get involved and help us spread socialist politics wherever we are. If you like these kind of socialist theory videos, we publish a lot of these kind of articles, similar articles on our Substack, which is called What Is To Be Done. feel free to check it out. If you're a VS member, you're welcome to, submit something to be published on there. We don't have to agree on everything for it to go up. But yeah, definitely check it out if you want to do some reading on this stuff. As long as you promise to then take that outside the internet and offline and out into your workplaces and out into your communities and actually do something about it. Love you all.